We hear this term AI agents all the time, right? These autonomous systems that are supposed to act on our behalf. But as they get smarter and more powerful, you got to wonder, who's really running the show?
And look, this isn't some far-off sci-fi concept, not at all. These agents are already here, right now. They're doing everything from, sorting your email, all the way up to some seriously high-stakes stuff like cyber espionage. They're a reality today.
So that brings us to the big question, the real mystery we're diving into here. How much freedom are we actually giving them? I mean, when we hand over the keys, are we just letting them drive, or are we backseat driving the whole time?
Well, to get some real answers, we're going to dig into this really cool study from the folks at Anthropic. They looked at millions, literally millions, of real-world interactions between people and AIs to see what's actually going on out there. And let me tell you, their discoveries, they might just change how you think about all this.
All right, so how free are these agents? Before we jump into the juicy details, let's just make sure we're all on the same page about what we're even talking about.
Okay, first things first. An AI agent is not just a chatbot. The key difference here is that an agent has been given tools, right? Tools that let it actually do stuff in the world, like run code or call external APIs. And that ability to take real action, well, that's what makes this whole question of control so incredibly important.
So our first clue in this investigation is all about time. It's the ticking clock. Basically, how long are we comfortable letting these agents just run without us jumping in?
And the trend here, especially for the most advanced users, is honestly, it's pretty wild. Check this out. For the top users, the amount of time an agent works completely on its own has almost doubled in just 3 months. It went from under 25 minutes to over 45 minutes. That is a huge leap in how much we're trusting these things to work autonomously.
And what this really points to is something the researchers call a deployment overhang. It's a fancy term, but the idea is simple. The AI is probably capable of doing even more on its own than we're currently letting it. It's like the technology's potential is running ahead, and we're still trying to catch up with our comfort level.
All right, clue number 2. And this one's a real paradox. A total contradiction that's going to make you scratch your head. It's all about how experienced users handle their AI agents.
So get this. On the one hand, as people get more experience, they're way more likely to just hit auto-approve. More than double, actually. They're letting the AI run. But, and here's the crazy part, on the other hand, they also interrupt the agent more often, almost twice as much. So, what gives? How can you be more hands-off and more hands-on at the exact same time?
Well, here's the solution to the puzzle. It's not about trust, it's about strategy. Experienced users just work smarter. They stop being a micromanager who has to approve every little thing. Instead, they become more like a supervisor, They keep an eye on the big picture and only step in when it really matters.
Okay, so for our third clue, we got to remember it's a two-way street. It's not just us humans hitting the pause button. The AI itself is actually pretty cautious and plays a huge part in managing its own freedom.
And in fact, when things get really complex, the AI is often more cautious than the human. It will actually stop and ask for help more than twice as often as we humans jump in to correct it. It's like it has a built-in sense of, maybe I should double-check this.
And if you look at why they stop, it tells a really interesting story. The AI stops to say, hey, here's some choices, or can you clarify this for me? But when we humans interrupt, it's usually because we need to give it some missing info, or maybe it just got stuck. So it's not a failure, it's more like a collaborative conversation, with each side knowing when to speak up.
Okay, so now we have a much better picture of how this human-AI partnership works. But that leads to the next big question. Where is all this happening? And maybe more importantly, what are the stakes?
So let's start with some good news, which is always nice. A full 80%, the vast majority of what these agents do, has some kind of safeguard built in. Things like a human having to approve a step, or the agent just not having the permissions to do anything too crazy.
But, and there is a but, the data also shows this new frontier starting to emerge, a place where agents are being given a lot of autonomy to do some pretty high-risk things.
And we are not talking about small stuff here. I mean, we're seeing agents used to pull up patient medical records, relocate reactive chemicals in a lab, even autonomously execute crypto trades. Now, sure, a lot of this is probably happening in sandboxes or simulations right now, but it gives you a real clear picture of where this is all going. The stakes are getting very, very real.
So where's most of this happening today?
Well, no big surprise, software engineering is the big one. It's almost half of all the action. But take a look at the rest of the pie. You've got business intelligence, customer service, finance. These are the areas where you can bet that high-risk frontier is going to grow next.
So, we've looked at the clues, we've seen the evidence. What's the verdict? Who is actually in control here? And maybe the bigger question is, what does this all mean for building a future where we can use these things safely?
The big takeaway here is that autonomy isn't just some switch you flip on the AI. It's much more like a dynamic dance. It's this constantly shifting balance between three partners: the AI's own caution, the way the user learns to supervise, and of course, the design of the tool itself. So, based on all this, Anthropic lays out 3 key recommendations. 1. We've got to monitor how these things are actually being used out in the wild. 2. We need to train our AIs to be more like that cautious agent, to know when they don't know something and just ask for help. And 3, we need to build tools that help people be good supervisors, not just give them a simple yes or no button.
You know, when you look at it this way, the whole study kind of reframes the debate. Maybe the question isn't who's in control. The real question, the one we should all be asking, is how do we learn to partner up effectively? Because as we start to tackle bigger and bigger problems with AI, figuring out what that partnership looks like, well, that's the real challenge ahead.